You might remember our great legal victory in the Federal Court of Canada last month. Stephen Guilbeault, who is now Trudeau's Environment Minister, had blocked us on Twitter when he was the Heritage Minister, and he kept us blocked. He blocked us not from his personal account or anything like that, but from the official government account, the one that's responsible for making government announcements, the one that's run by an army of nonpartisan civil servants. He was blocking us for one reason only, because he hates Rebel News. And the fact that he can't control us, and the fact that we criticize him, and he can't rein us in by threatening our government funding because we don't have government funding. What a window into his mind, eh? As if the media have to report to him instead of reporting about him. What does that say about all the journalists Guilbeault doesn't block, eh? Anyways, it took us more than 2 years in court, but we finally got Guilbeault to relent. I did a bit of a victory lap when the Federal Court of Canada issued the consent order against him. Not only was Guilbeault ordered to unblock us, but he was ordered to keep us unblocked for the rest of his career as long as he's an MP. That's a court order. And because he resisted this and fought us in court so long and didn't admit the obvious, which is that what he did was illegal and unconstitutional, he was ordered in this consent order to pay us $20,000. Now, that's an enormous amount of money, but unfortunately, it cost us much more than that to fight him in court for 2 years. So that was a victory, a legal victory, and I made a victory tweet celebrating the depoliticization of the civil service, because it's one thing for Guilbeault to personally hate me in Rebel News or for the Liberal Party to hate me in Rebel News, but they had infected the nonpartisan government itself, the department, with his censorship simply because he personally hated us. You can't do that. So I posted a copy of the consent order, and it went super viral on Twitter. I don't know if you can see it, but 2.2 million people saw that tweet, just that one tweet alone, let alone what other people tweeted. Now, you'd think that politicians would have got the message. Don't censor people just because you're powerful. You don't have the right to do that. Citizens have rights. We have rights to government services, which is what news announcements are. And a Twitter feed is. You can't just have an enemies list. Just don't. And if you don't like what someone like us is saying about you, if you have a really thin skin, either reconsider your career path or just mute people you don't like. Muting on Twitter stops you from hearing from them, but it doesn't stop them from reading you. Just don't block us. It's wrong. It's illegal. It's a violation of our constitutional rights. But it's also politically foolish because you will be humiliated in the manner that Stephen Guilbeault was. Millions of people will see what you've done. And you'll also have to pay tens of thousands of dollars in costs because you were wrong and obstinate. It's not true that all publicity is good publicity. A restraining order and $20,000 penalty is not good publicity, especially for a cabinet minister like Guilbeault, who's trying to claim that he isn't just a big censor. Okay, that's the olds, but I've got some news. The news is how stupid you have to be a fellow Liberal cabinet minister and to see what just happened to your colleague, Stephen Guilbeault, and to see the court order and to see how it ended and to say, yeah, I want a piece of that. Well, you'd have to be Yara Sachs level stupid. Yeah, that's the name of this cabinet minister.
How much vitriol do we have to see of honk honk, which is an acronym for Hail Hitler, do we need to see by these protesters on social media?
She seriously thought that honk honk meant Heil Hitler because they both start with the letter H. Now, we've got real Nazi-style rallies across Canada these days with people really calling for death to the Jews, and Yara Sachs has nothing to say about that, but truckers honking their horn is a Nazi threat. That's pretty dumb. And she, unfortunately, is dumb enough to block one of our journalists, our social media boss, Yankee Pollock. She blocked him on Twitter. You'd have to be Karina Gould level dumb to do that. She's the Trudeau cabinet minister who happens to be Jewish to boot, who took a selfie photo with that Nazi SS officer, Yaroslav Hunka, when he visited Parliament. That dumb. She thought that would be a good idea, and she thought it would be a good idea to block our reporter, Sheila Gunn-Reid. Yeah, don't do that. And then there's Marcy Ian. She blocked me. 3 Liberal cabinet ministers blocking 3 different Rebel News journalists. It was dumb to do that before. It was dumb when Stephen Guilbeault did it. But how dumb is it to do that after Stephen Guilbeault was ordered by the court to unblock us for life and to pay us $20,000? At least before the court order, they could say, well, let's see if we can get away with it. But they know they can't now. Why would they be that way? I have a theory. I think they learned it from their corrupt boss, Justin Trudeau. Remember that in 2019, Trudeau banned Rebel News from attending the leaders' debates, the election debates? We went to the federal court and we won. The judge said Trudeau violated our rights and ordered us to be credentialed. We got into the debates. Well, 2 years later, Justin Trudeau did it again, even though the court had told him not to. So we went to the federal court again and we beat him again. But even then, just hours after a judge tore a strip off him when we were in that leaders' debate, I tell you, that judge condemned him for violating our constitutional rights and confirmed that indeed we were accredited journalists. Trudeau defiantly said, just hours after the judge said he was wrong, Trudeau said, no, we're not real journalists. Remember this?
The only reason that I am allowed to ask you this question is because today the federal court ruled that the government doesn't have the right to determine who is or is not a journalist. This is the second election in a row that the court had to overturn your government. Do you still insist on being able to make that decision, and why?
First of all, questions around accreditation were handled by the press gallery and the consortium of networks who have strong perspectives on quality journalism and the important information that is shared with Canadians. The reality is organizations like yours that continue to spread misinformation and disinformation on the science around vaccines, around how we're going to actually get through this pandemic and be there for each other and keep our kids safe, is part of why we're seeing such unfortunate anger and lack of understanding of basic science. And quite frankly, I won't call it a media organization, your group of individuals need to take accountability for some of the polarization that we're seeing in this country. And I think Canadians are cluing into the fact that there is a really important decision we take about the kind of country we want to see. And I salute all extraordinary, hardworking journalists that put science and facts at the heart of what they do and ask me tough questions every day, but make sure that they are educating and informing Canadians from a broad range of perspectives, which is the last thing that you guys do.
Well, it's one thing to pout and be indignant like Trudeau was there. He's petty, he's small, he's a bully, but we were in. I mean, we couldn't sue him for being a fool. We got in. We got what we wanted. But these 3 Liberal cabinet ministers who have blocked us now, what did they think we were going to do? Did they think we would just say, sure, we're fine with you violating our rights? We literally have the identical precedent. We just set that precedent last month. Did they think we were tired, or that we'd given up, or that maybe we wouldn't notice? Are they that dumb? So, in fact, we filed a lawsuit identical to the one we just beat Stephen Guilbeault with. You can read it for yourself at twitterlawsuit.ca. I encourage you to read it. I think it'll make you feel good. Here, let me read just one key paragraph from it. It's a 21-page lawsuit. It's not that long. You can read it in 20 minutes. You can find the whole thing at twitterlawsuit.ca. Here's the paragraph that outlines for the judges what we want. This is an application for orders declaring that the respondents, the Honorable Marcy Ian, the Honorable Yara Sachs, and the Honorable Karina Gould, violated the applicants, that's us, violated our constitutional rights under sections 2B and 3 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in blocking access to official government X, formerly Twitter, accounts, and thereby limiting the applicant's ability to, among other things, access and communicate important information, participate in public debate, express views on matters of public concern, have a voice in the deliberations of Parliament, of government, and bring grievances and concerns to the attention of government representatives. That pretty much sums it up, doesn't it? We mentioned the constitutional provisions that are being violated. We're not asking for money other than for our legal costs. We're fighting on principle. We filed the lawsuit in federal court. I confirmed that we have now served the lawsuit on the federal government. So now it's Trudeau's move. And this is going to be telling, what will these three cabinet ministers do? Will they spend hundreds of thousands of taxpayers' dollars fighting us like Stephen Guilbeault did? Or will they acknowledge what we all know right now, that they are going to lose? So why not just do the right thing now? Well, because they're liberals, that's why. What do you think they're going to do? I'll tell you what they're going to do. They're going to fight this with your tax dollars because they're censors, they're bullies. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to sue any government official who thinks he or she can censor ordinary Canadians because they don't like them. This isn't even a partisan thing, by the way. I don't think conservatives should do this either, of course. I'm not talking about the Conservative Party or a personal account by a conservative politician. I'm not talking about that. If a Twitter account is just someone's personal or party account, I don't particularly think I have a right to read it if they block me. But if they are using government resources to run it with civil servants, and it's where they make government pronouncements, then every single Canadian citizen should have a right to see it. When we first filed our lawsuit against Stephen Guilbeault, I wondered if it was too small a lawsuit, too small a fight, if the infringement was too petty. I mean, is access to a Twitter account really that important? Well, it is small, but small things are not, by definition, unimportant. Because erosions of our freedom start small and they grow larger. And they're usually easier to fight when they're still small. If a government can ban you from Twitter, can they ban you from other federal government services? Maybe, I don't know, ban you from getting a new passport? That sounds pretty far-fetched, doesn't it? Well, actually, we had a government that banned us from flying or even taking trains, even within our own country. Far-fetched? You have to fight for freedom every day. You just have to when you've got a government like the Liberals in power. And it is easier to fight in the first ditch than to wait and fight in the last ditch. If you believe in this fight, as I do, maybe help us. We could use the help because we don't have any taxpayer money to pay for the lawyers like these three crooked Liberals do. You know, we're usually all alone in court. No other media groups are with us these days. No other civil liberties groups are with us in court. But that doesn't mean we're wrong. In fact, it means it's all the more important that we are there doing this, because if we don't, who will? So please go to twitterlawsuit.ca. Read the claim. It's only 21 pages. And if you think it's important to hold Trudeau's Liberals to account when they try to punish and censor us, and maybe you, well, please consider chipping in. To the three stupidest cabinet ministers in Canada, Marcia Ian, Karina Gould, and my own MP, Yara Sachs, know this. You will lose because you're breaking the law. Admit it now, or be humiliated by the court like your foolish comrade Stephen Guilbeault was. And to every other government bully out there, know this. You're next. Please go to twitterlawsuit.ca.